Yeah. Whoa.
Got it. There
Now
you
there we go.
go. See? Wonderful.
So what did you want to
There
start
we
off
go.
with?
Anything, man. Like, what do you,
What we were just talking about, the Matrix, dude.
yeah, we truly, from what I can feel, we live in a matrix. I really feel like we live almost like in a damn video game, right?
Yeah. When you're talking about your buddy with NPCs and it's creepy, you ever have a moment where you're looking around and you're like, how many of these people are NPCs just like, you know what I mean? Like no one you don't
Absolutely.
they don't talk to you, they don't look at you,
Yeah,
they don't
absolutely.
even look like
And there's
they're
no,
alive.
there's little to no emotion, right? And I'm like, so why are you here? See, and I go back and forth on that with inside me because I'm like, okay, some of my spiritual studies have shown me that like we are over 8 billion souls that are here, 8 billion people that are here, um, all have a purpose, right?
Yeah.
But then I hear people tell me that there are NPCs, and I'm like, okay, so then they're just here just to fill space, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I guess I contemplate and I go back and forth within myself, and I'm like, what's the reality in that? You know, and what is reality in general? Honestly, I mean, we think we know reality, but at the same time, I think we don't know shit about this universe, and we just like keep growing because I think that God's showing us things, and I feel like I tell people, I'm like, more and more we're starting to wake up. Like this is one of the, I would say, best times for us to be here because we're actually starting to wake up more than ever. But like we hear these concepts like NPCs, like, dude, if you tell that to 90% of our society, they're like, "Oh, you guys are nutbags." Like,
You
okay.
guys are crazy. Get off the drugs.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, having been a paramedic for years, they'd be like, "Yeah, you need to be on a 5150 and be in a fucking psych ward." It's like, yeah, well, probably not. I understand shit a little bit differently, but it's because I think I've also opened up my mind and my heart to things. You know what I'm saying?
That that's what a lot of people don't, like we were talking about yesterday. A lot of people don't understand that part. Is like uh or like I was telling you about that dude who's saying the true definition of a liberal. Like be open to people's ideas. Doesn't mean you have to accept them, but at least acknowledge or think about it. Don't just go off what you know.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, like you said, it's kind of like what we talked about yesterday. It's a simple fact of, we were handed belief systems, right? And that was handed down generation after generation. And I tell people, like, so you were handed those things and you believe those things, but yet why do you not question them? You know, um, I think I told you this before, but like, when I was a kid, and I remember like not trying to knock a religion, but when I was raised Catholic, I was in church and I remember like asking my grandmother, we're Portuguese, and I remember I was like, hey, I was probably like 6 or 7, and the priest said something, and I was like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, why is that? And she was like, don't question that. And I
Yeah.
remember like feeling the fear, right? Like, oh shit, like I shouldn't question these things. But then years later, my grandmother was like, oh my gosh, like I don't follow any of that stuff anymore. I'm like, yeah, that's the point. Like I tell people, like, whatever we've been handed, whether it been by government, religion, and I'm not saying religions are bad. I'm just saying there's good in all of them. But like I tell people is that, like they're trying to keep a thumb on you because they don't want you to understand that we are divinely connected at all times.
Yeah.
So we don't need an intercessor. We don't need any of that. We literally can co-create our reality at all moments, right?
Yeah. And if it's just like that thing I sent you yesterday about how the church has been corrupted. I'm not saying
Hmm.
all churches, but I'm saying on a
No, of
grand
course not.
scheme
Yeah,
of things, like it seems like it doesn't follow or practice what it preaches. So like for example,
absolutely.
uh like my I told you this before, my father and my grandfather always questioned, like, why do I have to go to church if we're like this is God's house is the earth. Like that's where we are.
Everywhere, everywhere, every moment. Of course.
Like you look outside, you look at the tree and the birds in it, and you're like, oh, that's God's creation. So we're here. Like What do you talk
Of
like?
course,
You know what I mean?
of
You don't
course.
need to. You don't need to go to a building that was constructed by man. you know?
And that's the thing is like, that's one of the things I learned being Catholic. I tell people I'm a recovering Catholic. It sounds stupid, but I'm like, I'm a recovering Catholic. I'm like, I had to go to a priest, this guy who was, I'm not judging him because we all have our mistakes, but doing something probably fucking goofier than I and telling me like, you got to come talk to me and tell me that everything's okay, like after you fucked up. And I'm like, well, guess what? I don't think I do because I talked to God directly. And I'm like, hey, the
Yeah.
human side of me falters anyway, right? And like I tell people, like, I believe we come, the soul comes to this human body multiple times, like not just this body, obviously it's the only time I'll ever be Brian, but like to learn, to grow, to expand, right? So I like, I've had, like I've told you before, that same recycled experience of relationships. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, why the hell am I going through the same thing with just a different woman, like a different body? And I'm like, okay. And then finally, in this last experience, I'm like, oh, I get it. It's you, bro. Like it's you. It's your own issues. It's your own, in depth. That's why you came here to learn. Was one of the things you came to learn was about relationships, right?
Yeah.
Um, and now, having gone through that 10-year relationship and getting divorced and doing all these things, I was like, okay, like I saw myself. I didn't point at her anymore. I didn't point at anybody else. I pointed at myself, right? That's why we're here. And that's why I tell people, like, ultimately, that's why we're here. Is our soul's here to learn and grow, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But people, we're so taught to like project shit on other people. And this is one of my big things. Like I always tell my coaching clients, I'm like, please listen, like when you're pointing at everybody else, the only reason you're pointing is because there's something inside of you that's not healed.
Yeah.
Like when you are no longer triggered or bothered, you realize like, oh, I healed that. Cool. You know, this life's an amazing experience. Like it really is. It's a great experience. It's just most people look at it as like a horrible challenge, and I'm like, it's fucking amazing. You know?
See, because a lot of people get hung up, like we're programmed to a certain extent with everything that we do. So when we make mistakes, we're basically programmed like to never make those mistakes again, but not in a healthy way. More of like, oh, you're a fuck up, basically.
Exactly.
So it's like, and then a lot of people will hold grudges, or like 5 years later remind you of this thing that you did one time, and
Yes,
then it's like,
absolutely.
but then on the other side, they're projecting their own crap on you. Even if you've grown past it, they're still gonna they're still gonna be like, oh, I'm holding you accountable for this, but not in a healthy way.
But it's ultimately them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like, um,
Not
we
to say
we
you
we
shouldn't take
literally
accountability for what you've done.
no, of course, of course. I mean, like, it's like people. So people ask me, like, so when I say that everything is happening perfectly and divinely the way it's supposed to be, people will ask me, they're like, well, so why did this person go kill 10 people at this school, right? And I tell people, like, I don't condone that. What I'm saying is that I'm not going to judge that because it's not my place. One, two, is that that person had some kind of or has some kind of like deep trauma in them from probably typically from their childhood,
Yeah.
and they did not know how to deal with it, and no one has ever, like, I'm not saying it's anybody else's job, but like, no one has ever helped them, or they've never like seeked help to figure out how to do it. So then at some point they break and they go do something like that, right? And I tell people like those innocent lives, no, I don't agree with that. um was that intended to happen? I mean, I believe in life that everything, our bodies, like our souls come to these bodies for a finite amount of time, right?
Yeah.
And I tell people, having been a paramedic for all the years I have, like, like I remember going to calls with a 3-year-old that died, and people would be like, "Oh my God, I can't believe, like, why would a 3-year-old die?" I was like, because his soul was only supposed to be here for that time, And they're like, it doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, well, yeah, but what did that change? And I saw like foundations started, different things that came from it, and I'm like, well, that actually showed like and gave them the push to start something that's going to help the rest of the world, humanity, you
Yeah.
know? And so I tell people it's like, and it doesn't mean I don't have compassion. I have empathy and compassion for everybody. But I tell people, I'm like, it does I also understand that we're also not supposed to be here. All of us are not supposed to be here 150 years. Just not the
No.
case,
No.
you know.
Yeah. No thanks. We'll come back if we don't learn. But yeah.
Of course. Yeah. And that's the whole thing too. That's another topic, right? Is, a lot of people have a hard time with the fact that we have past lives. We come here, our souls come here many times. I always tell people like I'll be this is the only Brian Moles that I'll ever be, but my soul's been here many times.
Yeah.
You know, um,
And there's a
you
lot
and
of
I've
different.
had this conversation. Yeah, you and I've had this conversation. It was kind of funny when we've talked about how we both say that we want to we want to like
This is
clear
the
all
last
our
time.
karma right now and be done. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I've talked to people about that. I'm like, yeah, I go, my buddy Nate and I, we talk about like, yeah, we just want to clear it and be done. And they're like, yeah, good luck. And I'm like, I know. I was like, I'm not saying it could happen, but I mean, I feel like the shit that I've been learning especially over the last since 2017 is probably when I really started going deep into my spiritual like uh studies.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn. I'm like, yeah, I see the things that I needed to heal and I want to heal, and I've been doing that, you know. So who knows?
And that's something, like we were talking about with mistakes, like healing. When you're the key is to try to do it from within instead of input from everybody else. Like,
Of course.
of course,
Yeah.
take input that's positive, you know, but
Yeah.
like you have to. Nothing. No one's gonna help you unless you help yourself with that
Yeah.
type of. You know what I mean? Like you go to therapy,
Absolutely.
you can talk to somebody, you can write it in a journal, but if you don't do the inner work, which writing in a journal, I guess, would be technically helping, but like inner work because
I
you're
do it.
releasing.
It's definitely a part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, no one's going to help you but you.
Of course. Yeah.
And it's the same thing. Like no one can destroy you except for you, and no one can
Of
create
course.
except for you. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And just feeding off of that, you're absolutely correct. And, I tell people, I read the Bible, I understand like Jesus' teachings, but I tell people like what you just said, no one can create or destroy you. Like, I truly believe what Jesus was teaching is like heaven or hell, like you create that here on earth for
Yeah.
yourself, right? You
There.
either
Yeah.
create a
Concept. There's also a concept that like what you think's going to happen after you die is what happens.
yeah,
Have you heard that?
exactly.
Yeah.
I've watched many near-death experience people tell their stories because of what they believed is what they experienced in that near-death experience, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Wouldn't that be more evidence
and
for Matrix?
yeah, no shit, right? I'm serious. Like, yeah, you're right. And that's the thing is like, and when we talk about the Matrix, and we talk about it like being similar to a video game. I tell people like, so what I've started to look at and realize, I'm like, okay, so I've gone through some of the same shit over and over in years of my life. And I'm like, well, because I wasn't learning the lesson. If you play a
Yeah.
video game and you keep going through the same level and you're like, dude, what am I not getting in this damn level? Right. But then
Yep.
you come to the point where you're like, oh shit, I got it. Bam, I leveled up. Right. And that's how I look at life. I'm like, so it's like me. It's like, again, I always tell people I'm very vulnerable. I'm like, hey, relationships, I sucked in relationships. Like I was always trying, I was always like, hey, I'm gonna do great and blah blah blah. And then I fall right back in the same shit. In this last marriage, I'm like, oh, I figured it out. So now I'm like, oh shit, I leveled up. Right. So now
Yeah.
going forward, even to talking to who I'm talking to now, I have a whole different perspective because I'm like, oh shit, like I'm no longer who I used to be. I don't look at it the way I was.
Yeah. Like
But that
the
took that took me multiple years. So
a lot of people. That's the other thing with it. Kind of plays back into the mistakes. Like when I said people will remind you about it like 5 years later, and it's like, dude, I'm not the same person I am
Absolutely.
today as I was yesterday. You know,
Yes. 100%. 100%.
if you
But
do the
how
work,
many
if you
people,
do the work, though.
but how many people from your past will continue, even though they don't even know what you've done, they will continue to point at you and be like, yep, you're the same Nate that I knew from 5 years ago,
Oh yeah,
right? And they have no clue. And that's the other thing is so I've talked to you recently about Robert Edward Grant. Putting that out there on our podcast, Robert, I'd love to have you on our podcast. I'd love to talk to you. You have a very deep intellectual, spiritual mind. He talks about that. He says, he goes, whatever you judge is going to keep coming back, right?
yeah,
And so I tell people, so that's what people don't get. Like when they're pointing fingers and they're like, oh, this person, that person, this and that and the other. I'm like, why do you keep experiencing the same situation? Maybe in a different body, but the same situation because you keep judging that situation. And that includes yourself. I tell people we're not here to include we're not here. I'm sorry, we're not here to judge ourselves. Like we're not here to. So we're all going to falter at moments, right?
yeah,
And that's what I tell you know I've learned is like I used to man I remember I used to for an example I guess you could say I'd go out and party and have this night and do whatever, and then I'd wake up in the morning and be like, "Gosh, you're an idiot. Why'd you do that?" You know. And granted, I've shifted that a lot, but I look at myself now, and if I have a moment like that, I'm like, okay, like you went and had a moment. You know, you
yeah,
didn't go hurt anybody. You didn't go do negative toward anybody. Like it's okay, but it used to be this deep judgment toward myself, and I'm like, ah, that's crazy. And I realize it now, and I'm like, that's why I kept coming back. Um, the other thing is again, like relationships, like I used to keep judging myself with relationships, and then I'd be like, man, like why am I continuously? I remember I look at it now, and I'm like, man, like why for years did I go back on myself and say like, holy shit, like you constantly are like repeating this shit year after year. What are you doing? Well, it's because you keep judging the situation
yeah,
instead of accepting and loving the situation, and growing from it. And that's what I tell people is like, so, why not love and grow from every situation you go through and you'll see it not repeat, you know?
or if it even if it's not repeated, or if it is repeated, not from you but from people around you, you understand how to
Mm-hmm.
like.
Mm-hmm.
That's something what
To
I
how
deal
to,
with. There's something what I deal with people that I run into, on a daily basis. It's like it's not very often, but it's like whatever they're projecting, like their anger or frustration, just in how they're speaking. That's something that's not has nothing to do with me. That's all on
no,
you.
not at
You
all.
know?
Absolutely.
So like
And
people,
I love that you see that.
well, that's the thing is that people make the mistake of like, and I'm guilty of it too. Like where you hear someone say something and you're like, you take offense to it,
Oh, of
and
course.
it's
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, of
like,
course.
yeah, okay, if they're being crazy, then sure. But if they're just kind of like angry or something, but passive aggressive or whatever, don't you gotta we all have to learn not to let that stuff bother us too. Like if you do customer service at work and this lady's being rude, no matter how rude that person's being, you can still maintain your positive energy.
Well, you and I talked about this yesterday. We spoke about this yesterday. I remember I told you, I said, someone could cut me off on the road.
Yeah.
And like I told you yesterday, like I look at it now and I smile and they drive by me, flipping me off and, you know, irritated. And I'm
Fuck
just
you,
like,
Brian.
yeah, fuck you, Brian, and I'm like, yeah, well, and I'm okay with myself. Um, but I look at myself and I can clearly remember I was 19 years old and I had moved to San Jose, California, and it's a big city full of, now, well, back then it was a million people. It's well over a million people now. And I was used to coming from a town that was 50,000 people. And
Yeah.
so I remember going over there with my ex and I'm like, man, I'm like, number one, this is ridiculous. Number two, like I remember going to college and I'm like, dude, what should take me 15 minutes takes me 45 to get there because the highways were so packed, right? And I remember like people like coming in and cutting and doing all this stuff because there's just aggressive drivers there and I wasn't used to that. Dude, I've told you this many times before. my warrior's still there, and you know, and I can wake him up at any point, and I don't want to. I always want to be peaceful as much as I can.
Yeah.
If I have to defend my family, friends, or any of part of life, of course I will, very much so, um, let him wake up. But for the little shit that I used to wake it up for, like that, I remember like being in San Jose and ready to like run my car into people, like someone else's car, and I'm like, dude, like, what are you doing? Like, then now I look at it and I'm like, that's not how we're intended to live. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're really not.
Well, it's
And
just
I tell
like,
people like,
I mean,
go
yeah.
ahead.
No, you can continue, but my point is related on we're not supposed to live this certain way. Like that
What do
thing
you
I
mean?
shared. I think you saw it. The thing I shared with Jim Carrey, where he's like, "We're not
Yeah.
all.
Yeah. Yeah.
We all just accepted the eat, sleep, and work entertainment schedule, but
Yep.
no one actually
Yep.
questions why we're actually here."
Yep. And that's, I mean, dude, how many conversations have we had? I mean,
Yeah,
with that,
funny.
where we're like, this is like the dumbest thing ever. Like, what we're not, I tell people, you're not fucking here to live some life to where you're like, I go to this job and I do this thing. I hate this job and I hate what I do, but I'm here to go pay these bills and then just die. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, that your soul is come here for something greater than that, and you're just following what you were told, right? And that's why we talk about our podcast, Warriors of Light, because I tell people like, I want to bring the light to the world because I'm like, man, like, why are you living this way? I told you this before when I had my business in the Central Valley before I moved to North Carolina. I was like, dude, I was like, what are you doing? Like, this is what you want to do the rest of your life? And I had people that worked for a bank for 30 years. They're like, well, I don't like it. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, well, I got a retirement. I was like, fuck your retirement. You could probably die the minute you retire. Who cares? You know? Fuck, what does it matter?
Yeah.
And then one of my best friends, like I told you, I love him to death, and going to him a couple weeks ago, and like, he's a fire medic. We became paramedics together. And he's at a place where he's just like, dude, like I don't love this anymore. And I'm like, so why are you still doing it? And I was like, how many years do you have? And he's like, well, probably another 15, 16. I'm like, yeah, you want to do that for that long? And he was just like, well, not really. I was like, yep, then follow your soul. Like,
Yeah.
who cares what people think? Who cares what people think? It really doesn't matter. Um, when I walked away from being a paramedic, dude, I had so much judgment hit me where they were just like, wow, you're so good at this and you've done this for so long. You've been to spot medic, done all these things. I'm like, who cares? It doesn't matter.
Dude,
Like, I have to go do something else.
it's the same thing in the freaking military, dude. You even so like when you're in, right, you have to every few years when your contract's about to be up, you gotta talk to retention and like your senior like I had
That's my
senior
son.
leaders who'd be like, what are you gonna do outside the army? What are you gonna do? Huh? You're gonna go work
Hmm.
at Burger King? Or they like talk crap,
Exactly.
judge you.
Yeah. Yeah.
They basically tell you you'll be a failure outside of the organization. And then when you're like for me it was different because when I got out I was a senior leader, so like no one really gave me crap. And like I also was getting out for reasons that weren't in my control. But
Well, yeah, you had your medical reasons, so yeah.
like but like there's that culture of they got to retain people, but doing it that way is not going to help.
Yeah.
And also kind of similar to what you just said, my run was done, man. I was like, y'all are messed up, you guys are talking about
Yeah.
politics and gender, and you jacked up the pullout of Afghanistan, so I'm out, see ya. I mean, it wasn't
Yeah.
my choice. I would have probably stayed and tried to fix it where I could, but it wouldn't have been worth it.
But ultimately, at the end of the day, you know that that wasn't meant for you.
Oh yeah, no, no, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, you were at your end, right? You were at your end point. You were done, and it's the same thing for me as a paramedic. I mean, people were like, dude, you're so good at this, blah, blah, blah. This comes natural. And I'm like, yeah, high five. I'm fucking done. You know,
Yeah.
the day I sent my notice in, I told you the story. My partner, who was one of my good friends, he was just like, "Oh yeah," and, like I showed him. I was like, "Hey, look what I typed up." And he was like, "Oh yeah, okay." And then I pressed send, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Dude, I'm done." And then management calls me within the hour. Like, what are you, what's going on with you? They're like, what the hell are you doing? And I'm like, dude, I was like, I'm out. I was like, I'm done. I was like, I can't do this anymore. So I've done it for so many years. I said, I'm so over it. And I said, I love it. I love serving people. I go, but there's a different aspect of life that I have to serve in now. I didn't know what it was. I had no clue. No fucking clue. Like, not one. Um, and I remember like within the day or two of sending that out, I literally like went into the whole aspect of one of my friends had told me years ago. I helped him get like physically fit. And he was like,
Yeah,
bro, he's like, you helped me come from like a horrible place to like a really good place. Like you're such an amazing, like inspirational coach and like, positivity and all this shit. And I was just like, okay. Like I remember back then I was like, yeah, I was a medic. I was like, yeah, whatever. He's like, I told you. And then it started. So I was like, maybe I'll go into training. That led the physical aspect led to God showing me um, the mental and spiritual. Like even though I had prayed and I'd always been into, I used to go to a church and here in Central California and all these things. But I swear to God, like that led me to so much deeper, you know,
yeah,
and it just kept going, man. And it's only kept going since 2017. And that's why I say it's like nowadays I'm like, holy shit, like I'm so deep, like and so into a whole different aspect of life, and I'm so grateful for it because I'm no longer on that superficial level where I'm just like, oh well, this is what I'm supposed to do. It's like, no, it's not, you know.
yeah. I mean, that just made me think like no matter what happens in your life, whether it's good or bad, it's all for a purpose.
It's all
So
for our
like,
good. See, so
yeah,
just to quickly touch on that, that's what I tell people. When people say good or bad, and I have a very different perspective on that, I tell people like, so so you've met my son, Anthony.
yeah,
So perfect perspective. I believe that everything's always happening for our highest good. I was talking to Anthony earlier. His oldest sister got in a car accident yesterday, and the car was totaled. She's fine, right? But she's upset, blah, 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 whatever. I told him, I said, it's a material thing. That'll go. Nothing else will come from it. I said, it's a blessing. He's like, there you go with all your woo woo stuff. He's like, see, it's all woo woo, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, and I told him, I said, and he's 14 years old. And I'm like, I love you. I was like, yeah, I was like, that's okay. Like, you can look at me like I just have my head in the sand. I was like, but guess what? Everything always works out because I do have my head in the sand. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Because I
I mean,
literally, since you and I've known each other, how has shit always worked out
it's been great, or
perfectly,
at least
right?
how we've pretty much spoke it, or it's like this will
Yeah,
happen.
yeah.
So like that's exactly what we've talked about before. Is people don't understand the power of the tongue and the mind. You speak it out and you think it, it's probably going to happen. Most likely than not,
You're,
it will happen. Not in the way you
and
might
then
think, but it will happen.
exactly, exactly what you just said. It may not be the way you think it's going to happen, but it's going to show up, right?
Yeah.
100%, dude. 100%. You just spoke 100% truth right there. It's like, I tell people, like, speaking. I was like, they talk about it's so funny because you think about movies and all these things, and they're like, oh, spelling, like, spells, they cast spells. And I'm like, do you know that, like, when you speak, you're casting a spell?
Yep.
Like, not, I mean, it's not a bad thing, but people think that casting spells are negative,
It's
right?
witchcraft. And they think
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
exactly.
so that's where the whole Catholic and Christian thing comes in, where it's all muddled. And it's like, oh, they're
No
not
shit.
like us. So they would have to kill them. Yeah.
Oh, they're evil. They're they're
Yeah.
they're playing with the devil. It's like, no, we're not. We're literally playing with what God gave us. One, two. The other thing is like, something I actually just studied and learned. It's a very side point, but the word abracadabra. The word abracadabra actually means placing this into existence, right? So I
Yeah.
tell people, so like all these like Disney movies and all these things, great, wonderful. But when you say abracadabra, all they're saying is I'm placing this into existence. Like it's not a bad thing, right? Um, but like you said, how
Yeah.
many religions say that? How many religions say that we are evil because of that? It's like,
But yeah, well, that's see, that's the thing is that I don't know if you saw it the other day. I posted something about what Jordan Peterson said because I don't know if you've watched. I'm sure you've watched Jordan Peterson before, like clips and
oh, of
stuff.
course, yeah, of course, yeah.
But it was like I can't remember exactly what he said or what he posted it, and I shared it. But he said basically something about pathways towards the kingdom of heaven or something like that, or kingdom of God or whatever.
I
And
didn't see that.
so I put there's more than one pathway to God, more to follow, which my more to follow is kind of like a foreshadowing of this. But that's the thing is like all religions and all things pretty much lead if you are open enough, it leads to the same thing.
No shit. So,
Yeah.
100%, dude.
There's more than one
'Cause-
pathway to God.
yes, yes,
But then
100%.
there's Christians and Muslims and Jews who'll be like, or who? Oh, well, maybe we should cut that part out. But
That's it. Hey, hey, listen,
but
we
people who are
can
super,
do whatever you want, but
yeah,
yes,
people who are super religious will say that's what the devil wants you to think, or oh,
this
that's
exactly,
you know what I mean.
exactly.
And the real
And
devils are here, us.
dude,
You know
the main devils are the ego mind, right?
that
The
monkey
ego
mind.
minds, the monkey mind. I'm telling you, the ego, the monkey, that's what I tell you, the monkey fucking mind.
Yeah.
That's what I tell you. That's the one that's telling you if you
Is it too
do
dark
this,
by the
you're
way? Is it
wrong.
right here? Is it too dark on my
Dark
screen?
inside. It's a little bit dark on your screen. It's not
Okay.
horrible, but it's a little bit dark. You could
Let
probably
me
be brighter.
let me do this real quick because it's dark now.
Well, yeah, and you're at a different time. Let me go P2. I'll be right back.
All right.
Let me get a yeah, I have a low battery. Let me get oh there we
Oh,
go. That's much better. Much better. Let me get a let me plug in. I'll be right back.
all right.
Do you have another like a cord that I can plug in out there? And then yeah. Just something long enough like so I can plug this in, plug it clear. That's not very no. What about in the chair? Was there like
Probably, I think my extension for the most thing here is in here. Oh,
what's that sign at the bottom? Not the bottom, the second to the bottom.
in the kitchen. But that's in the suite.
Well, it's not very long. I mean, it could work.
Why is there, or is your
Well, my
charger?
phone's dying. I just
Oh,
need
well,
to.
use this thing.
Oh, that's right. You have your other thing.
Yeah, Brian.
Perfect. Hey, Nate, shut up. Smart ass.
Sorry, my phone's at 40%, so I don't have anywhere to charge it either. But it should be
Did
good for
you, well, did you, dude, why aren't you on your fucking laptop?
because
Because
it
you're
what is
retarded.
oh no because this won't work on my laptop that I have. You have to use a different type of laptop for it apparently.
Okay.
So
My
I'm
mom
like,
gave me this charger that works. Um, okay. So where were we at?
you were talking about how you don't know how to charge your phone.
Stuff. You're fucking retarded. I'm glad that you actually fucking put some lights on so you don't look like you're a
I just
typical
like Dracula. Yeah,
terrorist
I
hiding,
don't
you
do
know.
it, motherfucker. Oh, well, this will look like garbage, but I could probably plug it in over here. Stand by.
Hey, hey, I've seen plenty of podcasts where people fucking do their things and they're like, yeah, gotta do what I gotta do. It's like, no shit. We gotta make shit work.
Hey, if Joe Rogan can get up and take a pee pee in the middle of his, then we can.
Dude, that motherfucker smoking weed, drinking, doing whatever, fucking Bert and Tom are fucking drinking, laughing, fucking falling off their chairs. I mean, shit happens. Fuck it.
And this is our trial run anyway, so we'll see how this goes.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. I'll send this shit out. I'll be like, yeah, oh yeah, this is great.
Hey, check it out. Check out our blurry Zoom video.
It's not even blurry. It's not even You're clear. Now you have
Uh,
fucking light behind you, which fucking lights you up because you're white, so you match with the white in the background. Fucking.
I was born in the dark. No, we're talking about like me and my wife have had these conversations with Christianity, with like God and the devil, like in depth. So like,
What are her thoughts?
huh?
What are her thoughts? Is she super Christian or what
No.
is her what is her oh, okay. I was just
So
curious with that. Yeah, sure.
I mean, so remember how I told you that her and her mother are basically like
Yeah.
descendants of witches, you know?
Well,
That's
they do. So do they practice Wiccan?
they used to it's kind I guess if you were to classify it, I would put it more as witchcraft, but not in a net
Well, I'm saying
like
because like
but Wiccan
Wiccan
and
is not
witchcraft
bad,
are almost
bro.
like the
People
same.
just think it's yeah. People think it's this fucking
But
horrible
then,
thing. I'm like, dude, it's not. It's not.
but you see, for me, my whole life, like when I met her, and then thought back on my life, I was like, oh wow, all this stuff makes sense because X, Y, Z, all the stuff that's happened in my life, like having a vision of a little kid in my buddy's house that his mom knew was haunted, and like boxes moving in the room,
Wow.
like I
Wow.
was over
Really?
my buddy's
Really?
house, and I was laying there, and I got this cold chill, and I was under blankets. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that
You
that's
were a
happening.
kid? You were a kid?
I was like, and I was in high school. I'll say that, yeah.
Uh,
So, but like, I was trying to go to
You
sleep, and then
you
I,
had you've had some experiences. We need to talk about that on here because you've had some
yeah,
fucking experiences. I'm telling you. God
yeah,
damn.
well, yeah, yeah, me and my wife, and we still do to this day in our house. Every house we've lived in, shit's gone on.
So shit's following you guys, which is not in a bad way. I'm not saying. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but
I blame, I just blame her because she's a witch. Yeah,
like I tell people, which you think about back in the witch trials, like the fucking witch trials that happened back in the day. Those women were fucking literally trying to do good shit, and people fucking like criminalized them and told them that they were fucking evil. And I'm like, it's because they only had their old fucking beliefs. It's like that's
well,
why.
yeah,
It's like, dude,
because correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know how much you know about this, but it goes back to the Christian thing. In the Book of Enoch,
mhm.
all of the all of the fallen angels taught mankind warfare and spells and all this other stuff, and that's where they sort of justify, oh, that's where witchcraft and everything came from, was from fallen angels. So it's the work of the devil,
You,
you
you know
know.
what's a trip, dude? Like, you know what's a trip? So this is actually not on topic with what we're talking about. But like, every morning like I get up, I pray, I meditate, I read the Bible, I read Wayne Dyer's book, with the Tao, those things. So I read this morning, the passage I read in the Bible was Jesus, it was Matthew 11. He was talking about how people judged him because they said that he was so they said that Matthew in this like get together they had didn't drink nor eat, right? And they said that he was from the devil. because of that. But then Jesus ate as much as he wanted and drank, and they told him that he was a glutton and a fucking drunkard, right? So I've read the Bible many times, and I'm like, dude, so what are these fucking like? Think about how we're taking misperceptions of fucking everything in this life.
Well,
And
yeah,
it's like I tell people, I was like, you could have a crime happen, right? You have 10 people see that crime. You have 10 misperceptions of what actually fucking happened,
yeah.
right?
I mean, I think. Oh man, I think that
Crazy.
like there's people who will see this and be like, oh, America was founded on this, blah 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 blah. And it's like the message is not to like just say screw religion or screw whatever, right? It's
No,
just
no,
if it helps you get
no.
through what you need to get through, okay. But at the same time, uh where was I going with this? My brain just shat on me. But the message that I guess what our podcast will be about is just be a good person. It doesn't matter what you believe in. Be a good person because that's what I was okay. So this is an interesting concept, right? So I don't know. This is going to be my nerd moment for the podcast. But have you
That's
seen
fine.
have you seen Dracula Untold? The newer Dracula?
No, no.
Okay. So I've been thinking about this concept for the last like 2 weeks, right? So in the movie, which is based, obviously is Dracula, but it's based off a real historical figure, Vlad the Impaler, right?
Hmm.
So the question, and I want to know your thoughts on this because I can't stop thinking about this, right? So in the movie, Dracula, Vlad, he goes and he basically becomes a vampire to save his people, right? But that's the story. But the deeper part of that is how
Hmm.
much evil or quote unquote negative or evil stuff, if it's for a good intention and you save people, is that like you're still going to hell? Or how does that work? You know what I mean? So if you use something that's evil, but you use it for good, then or with good intentions, then how does that play into that whole concept?
So what did he use for evil? That was with good intent.
So the evil was he became a vampire, which is like a demonic uh
Well, but
entity.
who says it's demonic?
Well, that's the story. That's what I'm saying. That's
Man,
the story.
man. No, that's what I'm saying. Man. I mean, right? Man says it's demonic. I mean, so look, well, you can go many ways on this.
I mean, well, a
Um,
vampire has to drink human blood, so you can see how people would be like, "Oh, yeah, that's fucking evil."
well,
Yeah.
no, of course, and I get that, right? I get that aspect. And so that's also comes down to the question of um when people ask me when I speak positivity and I speak love, and people look at me and they're like, well, so then why is it that this person went to this school and shot 10 people, right?
Mhm.
They're like, how they say they tell me they're like, so you say that everything happens perfectly the way it's supposed to, so then why would that happen? And I tell people like, look, this is the deal. You have free will, right? Your intent can be good. I mean, like the person that goes to shoot people in a school in their own, sorry, but fucked up mind could be like, hey, like I have to go do this because of whatever. And their intent in their mind could be good. But at the end of the day, did they serve others? No, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in that case, yeah. But I'm saying
But I'm saying like, so you're saying with so what are you saying with Dracula?
if
Like,
you
what are you saying
wield.
with
So
that?
basically the question is even like if you like let's say you defend your group of people, right, against another group of
Okay,
people.
yeah.
But if you wield a tool that's evil, like becoming a vampire or something like that,
Hmm.
and basically you become something else or whatever. You know what I mean? It's a play on the sci-fi part of it, but the concept is, I wonder what like God would say if, let's say, for example, if like, yeah, you killed like thousands, like Vlad the Impaler killed thousands of people, but it was
Hmm.
to save his own people. So it's like, how does God look at that?
But that's the same thing, and I get that. See, so
Yeah,
that's a question that, like, and that's a great question, honestly, because I have the question of Hitler, right? Hitler believed that he was doing a great cause. If you look back, if you like deeply dive into what he was fucking doing, he thought he was doing great shit for God, right?
yeah. I mean, he also
But the
did
rest
use
of
like Norse paganism too, a little in there.
no, of course, yeah, yeah, yeah. But see, even like, but you say like paganism, things like that. That was people believe that shit was okay, right?
Yeah,
And so it's belief systems, man. And that's what I'm saying is like, so you look at Hitler and you're like, well, fucking, he did this, and that's what people ask me, like, well, why did he do this? And I'm like, I wasn't in him. I don't know. I don't agree with what he did. I'm just telling people, I'm like, in his own belief system, he thought it was fucking like the right thing. And in my own, like, I guess you could say in my own um current belief, not even belief system, but what I've experienced in my life, and I've told you this, I hung out with a gang when I was younger, that was very much known as like a very like hardcore to the point gang. Um,
yeah,
little to no like okay, like they would just do shit and like they have no remorse. And I was just like, gosh. And I remember like because my heart, my whole life, I've always been like, dude. And I remember I'd see it and I'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? Like that's not okay. And but they in their beliefs thought that they were fucking doing right, right? And so this is where like humanity really, I mean, in my opinion, struggles because we think that fucking, our own beliefs are right, our own whatever. And that's why I try to tell you, like, when you and I've had these conversations, I'm like, dude, I have an open mind and heart to multiple things. And it's like Wayne Dyer taught. Wayne Dyer taught, you have a mind open to everything and attached to nothing. And I tell people, like, I'm not attached to a certain belief. I'm no longer, am I? I'm not attached to thinking that life is supposed to be a certain way. Like, I'm very open to learning and growing and expanding. Um, and see, but what we've been taught is that we are all supposed to have one belief,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Why
We'll
do
see.
religions follow each other?
Like the dangers of what you were just talking about with like gangs and Hitler and stuff like that. The danger
Mhm.
is that's their belief, but they also, the danger of that is they didn't question those beliefs really or act
No,
on the
exactly.
question of
No,
those beliefs.
yeah. No, you're
That's
100%
what's wrong
right.
with society now. People don't question anything. They're just like, oh, the news said this. Okay, I'm not going to critically think or use logic. Or like I told you, when COVID happened, oh, we're going to get canceled now. When COVID happened, uh, I knew the first week I saw it on the news. I was like, this is bullshit. I
No
was
shit.
I was like, this is bullshit. This is making they're making it sound like 28 days later, the movie or the zombies break out and all this other stuff. Yeah. I was like, this
Dude,
is this makes no
we're not
sense.
gonna get canceled. We're not gonna get canceled because I 100% fucking put that video out that was the same shit as this. And that's why I said it's like,
Oh yeah.
it's all bullshit. And I knew it was bullshit. And that's why I tell you is like it's all bullshit. I'm like, dude, like the fact that they try to control us, they've been trying to control. God, don't even get me started. Here we go down a whole another fucking rabbit hole, dude.
We'll say that for the
Like,
next one. Say that for the next one.
I'm just saying, like they've been trying to control us for years, all of it. And um, I tell people like it's funny. Like I'm just gonna quickly touch on it. So like water, we are a planet of majority of water, right? So when living in California, when they say that we fucking are like having a drought,
Yeah.
I'm like, so tell me this. I'm like, why is it that fucking like a cruise ship or a fucking Navy carrier can fucking purify 50 million gallons of water a day from their system, to drinking from the ocean, right? But yet we're fucking supposedly short on water.
Dude,
It's not a
we're the
fucking
only
business.
we're the only animal on this fucking planet that pays to live here.
You and I talked about this. I
Yes.
fucking told you that.
We've talked
And
about it
that
multiple
drives me
times.
that drives me fucking bonkers, dude. I'm like, why the hell are we the only one that pays to fucking live here? So we should have clean water. One. Two, Nikola Tesla fucking figured out the fact that we have fucking free electricity years ago. Why did the fucking government go into his apartment when he died and fucking confiscate all his shit? Because that's our stupid ass government, right? And that's why I
Yeah, because
say
for them it's about money.
it's all a fucking business. And that's why
Just
I
like now.
say,
Yeah.
yes, everything's a fucking business. And that's why I tell people, I'm like, so fucking tell me that shit hasn't existed forever. Of course it has. Um, I'm telling you, dude. And like us creating like abundance, I'm telling people, like, I'm like, dude, abundance is fucking infinite here. And I'm so tired of the fact that fucking we've been like fucking like duped into believing that it's all fucking minimal. And I'm like, I'm sorry, like it doesn't. Like it does. I don't agree with it. I don't give a fuck. And I will be the one to advocate for us to be different. And
Yeah.
you know, and like I tell people, I'm like, hey, guess what? The people that have always advocated for it, like fucking JFK, fucking MLK, all these people, right? They all ended up dead. Well, why? That's fine. Like fucking shoot me. I'd rather fucking you shoot me fucking because I would rather be here for my fucking
Hey man,
people.
that's okay.
You know what I mean?
The CIA has been listening to this since we said energy. We're the only animal that lives pays.
I guarantee fucking I guarantee fucking to you. That's okay. But you know what's funny though? Is you and I are fucking extremely trained in fucking weapons. So it's like,
Yeah.
and fucking like, understanding like, survival. So that's cool. Like, I'm like, that's why I tell people, I'm like, yeah, I'd love for you to fucking come after me. Like, yeah,
Just
I'll
come
give you
make
the
my day,
fucking
bro.
worst. I'm like, I'll let you have the worst war that you've ever fucking experienced. And you'll be like, God damn, I don't like him. It's like, no shit, bitch. You know, you might kill me in the midst of it, but I'll defend myself for a
Still
good
fight,
while.
you know?
Hmm.
But yeah, hopefully it never comes to that. Uh but it's crazy just how many people are just I mean, actually, what I've noticed is that, you know, the television will say, "Oh, this is happening," and then you go outside and you talk to people and you're like, nothing is wrong. You know what I mean? People are just
Bullshit.
people. So like when the whole riots and everything happened, and oh, white people are evil and all this other shit, it's like I go outside and I talk to everybody, or everyone's
It didn't
courteous.
exist.
People.
It didn't exist. No
There's
shit.
like that's what you were talking about that one night. We were talking about the television.
Tell I vision. I tell you,
Yeah,
it's tell I vision. Tell a vision, right?
yeah, yeah.
Tell a fucked up vision to people, and
Hmm.
it's bought. Those fuckers are bought by fucking this stupid little group of dumbass motherfuckers. Fuck you guys. I'll tell you right now on the podcast. Fuck all of you. And I don't have a fucking problem with it. You guys are all retards, and and you're all falling apart because that's why you guys are fucking like now reaching for straws because you guys are falling apart, and that's the truth. It's like you're telling a fucking vision, and people are like, "Oh my god," blah blah blah, and I'm like, "Dude, that's not even what's happening."
Dude, it's just
I'm
like
like,
with
we have it.
politics.
Yeah,
Like when they're like Joe Biden or Trump or fucking Obama is on the
jeez, any
TV.
of them.
It's like so. Actually, before I get into that, I have a quick story. When I was in, I think I was in high school. When did Obama get elected? What year was that? Fucking
That was I don't know. Fuck, I was still working. I remember I was working as a medic. I was at my station and I saw that shit. My partner was all into it, and I was like, bro.
all right.
Was that
I was
oh
either
was that 09?
if it was '09, then I was either just yeah, I was just starting my freshman year of high school. So
It was roughly around there, I think.
so,
I'm not 100% sure though.
so dude, I'm from a state that's like mostly white people and fucking refugees, dude. We're a refugee state. Okay. And I'm in my okay, if it's '09, then I'm in my freshman year of high school at that time.
I think I'm not 100% sure though.
Oh no, not freshman. No, 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 no. We gotta look this up.
No,
Anyway,
you were later. Well,
No, all
No.
right. I graduated in 2010, so definitely senior year or something.
So you're at the
I
end.
can't do math today. All right, leave me alone.
Hey,
But no,
I'm
anyway,
waiting for you because my fucking my Muslim fucking friend that's really good in math and now you're fucking up. See, you're fucking it all up, dude. I love
okay, yeah. I mean, I'm not Muslim, so it's
you.
cool.
Well, not Muslim. No, no, my dude, I met a girl. What are you again?
Lebanese.
Lebanese. I met a girl recently. That was Lebanese. Yeah.
Yeah, was it? Was it? Never mind. Anyway, so what I was getting to was when I was
Oh
in
my God.
school. When I was in school, I was young, and I was like, "Oh, cool." They had us all go into the auditorium and watch like the inauguration of President Obama, which at the time I'm like, "Oh,"
Yeah, yeah.
and then years of into his presidency, you
Dude,
realize,
I was at my medic fucking station with my partner, who was this like I love him to death, Kevin. I love him, goofy white boy. And he was like, "This is such a beautiful day." And I'm like,
why?
"All right."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Yeah, okay, like what does it make why does it make it beautiful?" Like it didn't matter to me. I mean, I don't know.
But see, that's
Personal
the
personal
problem.
perspective.
Well, that's the problem is that we're talking about warriors of light and bringing light to shit. People, that's the whole reason of the television, like we were just talking about, is that if I say politics because that's the most shit you see on nowadays. Every show, every fucking movie, everything is all about being the agenda that they want it to be, which we can talk about
No
Operation
shit.
Mocking, which we can talk about Operation Mockingbird another day. However, um, so the reason why I say that is because people will cling to like a candidate just because of their emotions. Like, oh, they're black, oh, they're white. I can identify with either one of those people or whatever. And it's like you're basing shit off the wrong reasons, bro. Let's talk
Because you don't
Like Martin Luther King said, the content of their character. Let's look at that
yes. No shit. No shit.
instead of like, oh, what color is their skin?
That's a simple fact though. That's why I talk about that because I always go back to and offer the fact of like people like MLK, people like JFK, because they were like, hey, it's not about this one stupid thing that you guys are fucking focused on. I tell people, so this is a deal, dude. Like and I told you this before, I know I told you this before. Um, when the whole stupid fucking COVID thing is going on, 22, everything was shut down. I shared that I found that one video of MLK, or no, I'm sorry, of JFK in the Oval Office, and fucking it was like a 15-minute video, whatever it was, maybe a little less, 12 minutes, whatever it was. And he said, he goes, I will not stand for the hidden shit, the hidden societies, any of this shit, as I am in charge of this
That's
fucking
why he's
country.
taken out.
He goes, that's exactly it. That's what I tell people. I'm like, look, I go, he fucking in the Oval Office, fucking put this out there. And then what happened? Less than a month later, he was executed. That tells you our stupidity of this goddamn country,
Dude, it's not just,
right?
oh man, we have to save this for another time, but there's a whole thing. Like, the global elitist type agenda. You heard of
Of
that?
course, yeah, of course, yeah, of course, yeah.
So, uh, basically, there's the theory is that there's this group of elitists that control everything that happens on the planet,
Which
which is
I've heard many
just
times. Yeah,
which is run through business and money, right? So if you don't meet that agenda, like that's what I was actually trying to get to when we're talking about politics and the presidents. Doesn't matter who, like they say, oh, your vote matters, but then the last election was fucked. We all know it.
yeah.
Everybody knows it,
No shit, no shit,
right? Come on.
no shit.
At 3 a.m., you're telling me Joe Biden fucking caught up? No way. Anyway, um, and why would you do it at that time of day? So no one would notice. Anyway,
Okay,
uh, but no
hold,
matter
hold on,
what,
hold on, because I know where you're going with it, which I completely agree. Just let me just throw one thing out there, just kind of like
oh,
fucking run your brain too. Is which obviously you've seen this shit many times. It's just like fucking like artists and things that say they sold their soul to the devil.
yeah,
Why? Why? That's what they mean, dude. Like they gave it to these elitist people, right?
Yeah.
They're gonna make you fucking famous. Aaron Lewis from do you know who Stained is? The
Yeah.
band
Oh
Stained?
yeah. I saw them live, dude.
Dude,
I listened. I
dude,
have his songs on
dude,
my
dude. I
playlist.
love Stained my whole life. I love Stained my whole life, and fucking and I love Aaron Lewis. He talked about when he fucking walked away from that. Like that's when he said when he made that song Country Boy. He goes, "It's been 10 years
Yeah.
since I sold my soul to the devil in L.A." Because
Yeah.
he said he was like he goes, I fucking gave it to them
Yeah,
to make
dude.
me fucking popular, and he was
Uh,
done with it. He was like, I'm done with it. See, I'm telling you, bro. Like Tupac, people have said for years, and I told you this. I love Tupac shit for years, and he said he goes, he was in jail because he was doing whatever. Fucking what's his name got him out of jail. He fucking like started following his fucking record label, Death Row, just to do all this shit to whatever. Then he got to that point where he was like, I'm done with this shit. And he walked away, and then what happened? They fucking got rid of him. Because he
yeah.
knew he was always a poet, an artist. He was like, I don't want to do this shit. He's like, I'm not a gangster. He's like, I don't care about this shit. You know?
It's just, dude, all that stuff is. But what I was gonna say is that everyone thinks that who's president matters, and to a certain extent it does, but not as much as
But
people
how
think.
much though? No,
Because what happens is that someone gets elected, and then the black suits walk in and tell them how it's really gonna go.
of course, because they're the
Like,
puppet.
dude, there's a documentary series on presidents and UFOs, and they select which presidents to give information to. So if that
No
isn't an
shit.
incarnation of that everything is chosen for a reason by these elitist people, like just that concept alone, don't you think every president should know everything there is to know? Why would they select
Well, no
certain ones?
shit. No shit. That's what I'm
Uh,
saying. It's like fucking like they know. Like, dude, it's so. I mean, I'm sure you've seen this, and I've seen this, and I don't follow news or any of that shit, but they've said for years that fucking Biden is just a fucking puppet.
yeah,
He's a
yeah,
puppet, bro. Like, he just him, dude. Now it's funny because which I don't obviously follow any of this stuff, but I was at the gym yesterday, and Fox News, which of course they're all bought, but still, Fox News is fucking still against like all these guys. They were showing like fucking like his son being indicted for like multiple things, and I'm like, dude, I'm like he's about to get fucked and put in prison. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and fucking, what are you gonna do? Like, and Trump is fucking leading the fucking pack right now. Like, and I'm like, and like I said, I don't care about fucking politics, but the one thing I will say about Trump is, dude, our fucking stupid fucking what's it called? Um, our economy was running great when he
yeah,
was here. So,
because he ran it like a
and
business,
yeah, and that's what I tell people all the time. I'm like, he ran like a fucking business. And I'm like,
but he's
being a
also
businessman
pro-American.
myself, he's what?
He's also pro-American. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like
Mm-hmm.
you have all these other countries like you ever see those memes where it's like, oh, I miss mean tweets. You know what I mean? Like people
Mm-hmm.
get that's what I was telling you earlier about people will identify with a candidate based off their emotions and
Mm-hmm.
not logic.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens?
Exactly.
And then we hate Trump because he basically said he just tells it like it is. That's why people don't
Dude,
like it.
I'm telling you right now, Nate, I've learned, and I tell this, and I've probably told you this since we've known each other, is like I teach people about like fucking emotional intelligence. And I
Yeah.
tell people, I'm like, listen, you have fucking like your IQ and you have your EQ. And I'm like, listen, your EQ is more important than your IQ. I was like, because, like I was listening to Danica Patrick on her podcast yesterday, and she was like with Robert Grant, who's extremely intelligent, and she goes, and he was like, oh my God, like he's like, you're so intelligent, and she goes, Robert, she goes, I only have a fucking GED, but because she went deep spiritually, she's growing, right? Like she's fucking expanded. And so I tell people, is that I always tell people, I'm like, dude, I don't give a fuck about your stupid. I told you this when I opened my business. I was like, I don't care about your stupid fucking like what you have under your belt. Who are you? Show me who you are, and I'll fucking hire you.
Dude, that's
You know,
my dad's always said that. He's like, just because you have a piece of paper on your wall doesn't mean you're smart.
doesn't mean a fucking
Doesn't
thing.
mean
I'm telling
shit.
you, dude.
And I know from
Dude,
experience.
as a paramedic, I'm gonna tell you right now, like fucking like I probably was like a B student in the whole paramedic program. And we had the guys that fucking always had like the high 90s. Dude, when they went into their fucking internships, they were fucking idiots. Not to be mean, but
Yeah.
they were. And I'm like, there you go. I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. It's not about fucking didactic. It's not about didactic fucking intelligence. It's about living this life and fucking really showing intelligence in this life. And so I tell people, it's like, I don't care. That's why I always, people I hired, I was like, I don't care what the fuck. Like, people kind of be like, oh, I have fucking, five certifications. I'm like, yeah, I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't care. Who are you as a person? Come here and show me. Let me watch you for a week and then we'll see what happens, you
Yeah.
know? And that's how I would hire people. Because I was like, nah, I'm like, fucking, I don't give a fuck what you have. Like, that doesn't mean shit to me. Like, you could be a fucking the biggest idiot in the world. I was like, yeah, I don't give a fuck, you know? Because anybody can fucking pass a test. I'm like, so stupid. And that's the thing with this life is like, I don't believe this life is even about that. This life's not about like going to college and doing those things. That's why fucking like, why do you think that system has changed so much
That's just
now?
a business. That's a business system, dude.
Bro, look at these people that go to college. My daughter, God forbid, and my daughter's one of them. She's in USC, and she's paying fucking 90 grand a year. And I'm like, dude, and you're not even in a place where you fucking truly want to be. Like you're just
Dude,
uncertain.
yeah,
My
like
God. Like,
the only reason why I did it is because I didn't have to pay for it. You know what I mean? But I did it
I'm
also
listening. I'll be
because,
right back.
huh?
I said I'll be back.
Oh, me too. Oh, look at that. He's back.
Oh, there he is. Damn, do you go
Oh,
shit or what?
what we're talking about? Yeah, damn.
I don't know. I think I was assuming you went and took a shit, so I was like, well, maybe he's gone for a while now. You
No,
know,
I did
you never.
that. No, I did that earlier. That was before we got on. uh, but no. So yeah, I mean, people just don't understand. They get trapped in their own little bubble, and they never get out of it. And they just think that they just take everything for face value and don't think any deeper into anything.
Well, why though? That's comfortable, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So I was literally just having this conversation. I told you that girl that I'm talking to, and we just had that conversation because she said, you know, she just had a past life regression reading, and she said, she goes, you know, she goes, people kept telling me I need to have it. She goes, and I was like, nah, no, no, because she was so taught by I guess I'm not trying to negate one religion or the other, but like I guess a Christian way, right? And
yeah.
and she said, she goes, you know, she goes, I was like, oh my God, like, you know, blah, blah. She goes, but then I had it done. And she goes, I was like, holy shit. She goes, and so much opened up for her and to her. And then her and I started talking like 2 days later. Bam. Like they were like, dude, you're open to love now. Like, here you go. And since I've known you, I mean, well, before I knew you, I told you that day that girl there in North Carolina, all those things, whatever. And I was just
Yeah.
like, dude, I was like, I just never had that girl that was like, that could match what I'm looking at from my heart. And this girl and I start talking, and I'm like, all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, you know, what about this? And she's like, oh yeah, and she just like reciprocates off it. I'm like, okay, like what the fuck? You understand this? She's like, yeah. And then it's like, and then she tells me, she's like, I just did this, and I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, oh my god, that's beautiful. I was like, holy shit, you understand? She was like, well, yeah. And I was like, what do you mean? Well, yeah. She's like, well, no, I've never met anybody like you. She goes, I never met a dude like you. And I was like, I never met a woman like you. I was like, because most of the women I talk to, if I tell them this, they're like, yeah, you're fucking a devil, or you know, you're fucking like they don't tell me I'm a devil, but they're you know, but they're like, what are you following? You know?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yeah, it's like you understand it. And she's like, yeah. And I was like, that's the point, man.
Well,
And
we talked about that the other day when the more you, I guess the terminology you could use for it is the more you wake up or awaken, the more you're going to meet people
awaken. Yeah.
like that, which has happened to me
Yeah,
more often in the last couple months than ever in my life.
absolutely.
Which is
Absolutely. You know what's
crazy.
funny is it what's funny. You know what's funny though is like and I wanna get your take on this because I don't know if you and I have ever talked. I don't think we have talked about this. Um, but you know how people talk about like they're woke?
Yeah,
That's
that
bullshit to me.
that's
I'm
woke.
sorry. Woke is not fucking like spiritually
We're,
awakened.
no, no. The terminology woke is that you're like you think you're for everything, but you're really not. That's what it is.
Yeah, no.
You think you're tolerant,
You
but
judge
you're
shit.
intolerant.
You judge shit. You judge shit,
Like the fucking
right?
rainbow flag fucking weirdos and the fucking oh, everyone has to be equal. We're woke. No, shut the fuck up. Woke means just like we're talking about the term liberal, right?
Yes. Yes.
Woke should
Yeah.
mean woke should mean I don't like to use
You're
the
open
term
to everything. You're open,
yeah,
but you're open to everything.
but yes, but I would say awakened or awakened. Like we're like our podcast is gonna be called Warriors of Light. So like
Yes.
you see the light. You're not just like uh like the race thing where it's like all these white people bitching about racism and it's like you're fucking white, bro.
Yeah.
Like like but they're but I guess the way I'm wording it is wrong and it probably will be intended like people will hear this and be like, "Oh, what the fuck?" But what I'm trying to say is they're trying to overcompensate for shit that doesn't fucking they have nothing to do with. It's it's all about am I relevant? That's where the woke things like, oh, I have a voice I need to be heard because I'm a narcissistic fucking psycho.
No shit.
You
Yes.
know,
Thank you.
that's what I'm
God,
trying to
yeah.
say.
Yes. Yes.
Instead of just
Yes.
fuck up and letting people be people. It doesn't matter if you're
No
black,
shit.
white, male, female. Just shut up. Leave people
Yeah.
alone.
No shit. Yeah. Fuck. Yes. Gosh
Like
damn.
me, like we were talking about. You asked me what I was. Like I'm a mixture of European and Middle Eastern. But I don't. When I was younger, I'd be like, "Oh, I'm fucking this." But like, because I was a dumb kid, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Because you
Because we
didn't
used to,
know. Yeah.
because
So,
when you're with your group of friends, you're ragging on each other and making those types of jokes. You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about.
well, I always, I always think back to the story you told me of that girl at fucking when you were doing recruiting and she like did the nose thing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh my
Like,
gosh, that's
I was
so
like, "How do you
goofy.
know?" She was like, "Woo, thanks, Aladdin." But
Yeah, I love
that's
it.
the problem is that everyone we live in a world where people, well, not everyone, but the people who are loudest are the ones who are focused on themselves, and everybody who's normal is just like chilling. But everybody only sees the loud people because they're the only ones talking. Everyone else is like minding their business and living life.
Well, in a sense, yes, but then the other sense is the other sense is what we were just talking about earlier is that, um, the people like MLK, JFK, Gandhi, all these people, right? Like they stood for and made a difference, but they stood for and made a difference, but and they weren't loud. Um, but because they didn't, because fucking the whatever you want to call it, the backside didn't stand for them, they were killed. And so, my thing is like, like us, like you and I, we're doing this podcast. We want to like share things. We want to share light. We want to fucking bring it out. And right. And I'm like, let's do it.
Yeah,
I don't care. I don't care what anybody thinks about us. I don't care what anybody thinks about what we share. Um, Government, whoever. I mean, like, dude, having been like fucking law enforcement, all this shit, like, I was inside of like governmental agencies, and I'm like, you guys are so fucking political and bullshit. Like, you guys are stupid garbage, and I didn't care, and I was always the one that was against them. I was like, I was like, you guys are fucking retarded. I was like, I don't care. I was like, fuck you guys, and my whole life, I've been the one that people would look at me and be like, hey, will you say this in the meeting? And it's like, no shit, because I was the one that was like, oh, you don't like me? That's okay. Fuck you. Like, I love you anyway. Like,
yeah,
because I love people, but I'm going to speak my truth,
yeah.
And I don't know,
And
man. Like I said,
like
I
what
just,
you were just talking about is kind of the concept of this. Like you did it, you didn't do it just to say fuck you. You did it to protect the people that you had to protect, you know? Or
I've never
stand
done things,
or stand up for
I've never
people.
done things,
Yeah.
I've never done things just to be an asshole. Never. Never, like ever. I
Yeah.
just love people. I just love people, and I'm like, dude, like if you're gonna be beat down or held down or whatever, like I'll be the one that'll be like, hey, guess what? God made me a warrior, and I'll
Yeah.
fucking break your neck, and I'll keep going and be like, yeah, hey, and for peace too, like fucking same thing,
It,
That's what I
yeah, you
said.
gotta
I
know
feel like people look,
it's like a switch.
huh?
It's like last resort, self defense type shit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, you and I've talked about that. You and I've talked about that though.
Yeah.
You and I've talked about that though. We've talked about how like, like I'm not a guy that's like, hey, I'm gonna go fucking just kill a bunch of people. Like, fuck no. Like, could I? Yeah. Do I want to? No.
Yeah.
Um, I love people. Like, I want to just help and make a difference. And it's like I said, like even that, like I told you, that chick that I'm talking to, like she's a beautiful soul, like a beautiful soul. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, you know, obviously I was meant to come back to California for many reasons, but like I see her and I'm like, God damn, like fucking you're beautiful mentally, physically, and spiritually. I'm like, oh my God, like fucking she was like, dude, so I've been praying fucking for years and she's like, all of a sudden you show up. I'm like, well, not all of a sudden. Like God's like, hey, here you go. I'm like, it's a purpose, but crazy.
Ask and you shall receive.
Dude, thank you. Right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
But
Thank you. It's even like you guys going back to Vermont. Like you'll be there, man. I know you will. I know you
well,
will.
no, it's Virginia, but it might be Virginia.
Hmm.
I don't know yet.
Oh, Virginia. I thought it was Vermont, but Virginia, but still.
Yeah, no. But that's the thing. Like all that little stuff, you think about it, then you say it, or like you start to kind of like what I've started to learn now is that like what we talked about when we first met is just flowing. So like I don't plan a lot of things anymore. I kind of just think it and then speak it and then I just let it
Just let it
happen.
happen.
I continue
Yeah.
on doing what I got to do, like work or whatever, cook dinner, but I'm not like stressing about an outcome. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people
Dude.
will, a lot of people want control over everything, and that's when you
Well,
mess it.
most people.
Yeah,
Most people. When I
like
met you, it was funny because when I met you, I was like, well, when I interviewed you, like I didn't I felt a good energy, but I didn't have like a ultimate like who you were. You know, I just felt a really
I
good
think
energy.
it's funny that you said you felt a good energy when I had sunglasses on and I had like a straight face the whole time. But you know what I mean?
No, but dude, it's energy fucking is not through just eyes. It's through like
Oh
the
yeah, I know.
environment.
I know.
And so I felt you and I was like, yeah, this guy seems fucking like really cool. Like
Whoa,
fucking
you gotta
he's
watch how you
really
say that on the old algorithm. You felt me. Hey, hold on.
well, I didn't feel your balls or anything, you know. I mean, like fuck, you know. Obviously I'm not gay, so you know, I didn't do that, you know. I mean, you know, but hey, maybe you were some some kind of, you know, gay energy. Who knows? But anyway, you but no, but like it was funny because like I was like, yeah, this guy seems really cool. And and then, you know, I remember Danny telling me, he was like, hey, he's like, you know, you decide. He goes, because you can hire like um the front desk girls. He goes, or you can hire like an assistant manager. He goes, up to you. I was like, all right, cool. Dude, you and I started talking about meditation, like shit went on, and I was just like, oh yeah, he's fucking hired. I was like, yeah, we're good.
Yeah,
And
dude. Like how that happened was crazy. That's not something that happens ever. You know what I mean?
mm-mm, 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 mm-mm.
So that's why I was telling like my wife and stuff. I was like, this is like on a different level. Like this is a
Yeah,
job.
because like when you,
I was like, this is a job interview, but this is like a step up.
how
This is
was I
like,
though?
yeah.
How was I though? Not like a real fucking job interview, right?
No, well, yeah, but what I'm saying is, there's like we talk about. There's no such thing as a coincidence,
No, that's what I'm saying
right?
though.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, we're saying the same thing, just in a different way, maybe. I don't know.
When I met you, there was no like real job interview.
Yeah,
Like I asked you, you told me you're like, hey, I'm trying to park because there's a bunch of people. I was like, yeah, fine. Let me give you coffee. And then I did it. And then you walked up, and I remember when you first walked up because because I love you, Nate. You're my boy. But when you first walked up, I love you. When you first walked up, you were like a little bit like off, like a little bit different, and I was just like, what the fuck is he doing? Like, why is he so fucking like, hey, like you know, whatever. And I'm just like, bitch, just be yourself. You know what I mean? Because I'm always like the type of person. I'm like, just fucking be yourself. Like, I don't care who you are. You know, I don't care what you fucking have, what your fucking like degrees are. It doesn't matter to me. Like, just talk to me and be you, and that's all I want. I want natural. And then like initially you were like a little bit tight, but then all of a sudden you just like popped, and I was just like, oh shit. And then we started talking about meditation, and then that was it. I was like, oh shit. I was like, yep, I like this guy. And then we were just done. And it wasn't even because you meditated. It was just more of like you understood things, and I was like, "Yep, he gets it." Like I was like, "Cool." Um, and that's why I remember, like when I left, like I remember, like because Danny told me, he's like, "Hey, he's like, if you want to hire him, he's like, just call me and let me know." And
Yeah.
like I literally was pulling out of the parking lot. I was like, "Hey, he's fucking hired." And Danny was like, "Oh, really?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Fucking, he's fucking awesome." And that was it. And I was like, "Yeah, he's a great guy." But it was because it was way deeper than what's it called? Fucking business shit, you know?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I don't care about that shit. Like I was like, yeah. Because I know like I'm a business person, but I'm also like I'm way deeper than that. I'm more of a spiritual person. So I'm not saying you can't be spiritual and business at the same time, but I'm just saying like fucking for me, it's like I create business and then it turns into spiritual, like it always goes, you know? Um
You're led in the
and
direction you're
you
supposed to go.
Yeah, like I always do it. I'm like I that you know, well I know like obviously when I created my business before, like I wasn't even where I'm at now and I just fucking realized now I look back and I'm like, oh shit, like I created that shit like naturally. Like yeah. But anyway, yeah. No. And until I saw it with you, I was like, oh shit, like fucking this guy's a different fucking connection. Like I saw you. You told me like you told me something. You told me about the meditation or whatever it was, and I was just like, oh shit. I was like, oh, this guy's fucking different.
And you're like,
And you
yeah,
know that wasn't and you know you didn't do that purposely. That was fucking just from your heart.
yeah. Uh, that's like that's the shitty thing about most jobs too. Is like you can't really be yourself in an interview. You know, it's like, oh, what
Because you're
experience do you
trying to fucking impress them. Yeah.
what how would you handle this situation that's like totally random? You know what I mean? Like, how would you handle an angry
Yeah.
customer? It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know, it depends on how they are. The fuck?
No
You
shit.
know? But
But that's what I'm saying though, is like, you know, but like you were able to be yourself,
yeah,
which that attracted me like immediately. Like fucking
like this is a dude
dude, I
I'd
had the
work,
coffee huh?
yeah, like the dude I'd work with because we'd work well together because we're like the same kind of, you know? Or like
Yeah.
we would work well together. Yeah.
Yeah, you were that guy immediately. I was just like, yep, that's him. He's good. I was like, yep,
But that's what we've talked about that before. When you read energy, like you can tell within the first few minutes of meeting someone, like, okay, yes, no, are they good? Are they like fucked up? Which we were talking about, like, don't judge people, but you can kind of get a vibe off people within just being around them.
of course.
Like, you know
Yeah.
what? Maybe I could fuck with that person, but no, I don't want to because
It's not about judgment. And like that's my thing is like, you know, like which I will speak for myself. Like I never try to judge people, but I'm not gonna hang out with you if your energy is negative.
yeah,
You know? Like I will help anybody, I will fucking coach anybody, I will talk to anybody. But if your energy is fucking negative, like just to be with you, like I'm not gonna do it. Like why would I? You know? When I'm, you know, that's why my son, when we talked about it yesterday, and he was saying his mom was saying all that shit. I was like, your mom's unhappy with her fucking marriage, and he's like, I know. He's like, and she's having the baby from him, another baby from him, and all this shit. And I was like, you know, I told him, I was like, fucking, I go, but I'm happy being in myself, and he's like, I know that. And I said, you know, that's called projection.
yeah.
People project unhappiness on other people, right? So they look at you and they're like, "Oh, this person, haha, they're over there like not married, they're blah blah blah," and I'm like, "Okay, I'd rather not be married than be fucking unhappily married and fucked up in this fucking situation that you're in all day long." You know, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
people could look at me and be like, "You're 41, not married," and I'm like, "Woo!" I'm like, "Thank God." Because you're in a fucking marriage you've been in fucking for 10 years that you hate. I'm like, I'm happy to be single. Thank you, Jesus. Like, I'm like, and people don't get it. They're just like, oh my God, like fucking blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, you live in this like uncontented state, which I've seen people do over and over. And I'm like, why would you fucking do that?
Yeah. Well, because
You
that's
know?
another thing. It's a part of programming,
Yes. Thank you.
but it's also to do with they haven't healed through their own shit. So we've talked about this before, where you'll keep repeating the same things until you learn, which
The same
we've just
progress, right? The same fucking, but like we said, it's a fucking game, right? So you're on level fucking 10. Oh, I can't figure out how to fucking get out of level 10 because I'm keep getting with the same person. Well, then how do I get to a level 11? Like, well, then you defeat that shit. Then you move
yeah,
on, right?
because
I mean,
that's exactly what we were talking about earlier is comfort. That's the default, that's the programming, so they revert to what they're comfortable with and what they know instead of doing the uncomfortable thing, looking within and growing past it and actually learning instead of just like, oh, I just want to be happy. And people confuse life, like happiness is not what everybody says it is.
no, no, not at all.
And like I don't think we're not put here to be quote unquote, like, yeah, we're supposed to be positive, but we're not put here to be happy, you know?
Well, and see that's one of the questions, and so I'm gonna ask you this because I've had this question inside myself like a few times, like multiple times, where I'm like, okay, so I completely agree with you. Like the way we grow, right, is from discomfort.
Yep. I'm listening.
But at the same time, though, at the same time, at some point we are supposed to be here and be able to enjoy
Yeah.
our senses, right? Like our through our taste, our touch, our sense, our having beautiful sex, like whatever it is, right? We're meant to come here. Our soul comes here to do those things. So I tell people it's not like your whole life is supposed to be fucking miserable because it's not,
No,
right?
no.
And so my question is to you, it's a true question, is so at what point do we see that like life is like, we learn, we grow, we do these things, and then because I have this true question, at what point do we say, okay, like this is my aspect of like I'm gonna live the next year or 5 years or whatever it is of just enjoying my senses, right? My human senses, because ultimately we're a spirit living here, right?
Yeah.
But yet we come here to experience things. So at what point do we say like I'm okay with experiencing all these fucking human things for the next 5 years or whatever, because I look at that and that's my ultimate question to you, only because like I feel like in this life, like I have like because I before I knew what I understand, I was like, God damn, like I'm fucking like just going through all these things, right? And I'm like, oh my God, it's fucking annoying, Shit.
Like you're going
Now
through
I
it, but
understand. Huh?
like you're saying you're going through those certain things, but you don't understand why, and
Yeah,
you're
I didn't understand.
passive
Like
about
I had
it.
no clue. I had no clue, right? Now I do. Now I understand. Okay, cool. But do we come to a point? So my question to you is, do we come to a point where we are supposed to fully enjoy every aspect of this life, right? So we've
Are we
gone through the lessons.
everything? Is that what you're asking me?
Well, we've gone through the lessons. I'm not saying that we're ever fucking fully done with our lessons because we're not, right? But do
Yeah.
we ever come to a period? Do we ever come to a period where we can have like the next year, 2 years, 5 years of just beautiful experience because we've already learned so many lessons, can we come to this next 2 to 5 years of just like, hey, this is beautiful, like this
Well,
is
yeah.
wonderful.
So what I would say is that you can't get there without doing the work, though. And
Yeah.
what I mean by that is a lot of like we were talking about control and like people are so programmed that they don't understand. Like you can be positive and you can speak things out into existence and you can think it, but you also have to do it, right? So it's for me speaking and thinking it like manifesting, like we're talking about manifesting, right?
Mhm.
Basically, like manifesting happiness, right? But you have to have a balance. I think a lot of people have the problem where they only focus on, I just want to be happy. If I do this thing, I'll be happy. Or if I get this certificate, I'll be happy. Or if I get this job, I'll be happy. But happiness, like what we've talked about, one, there's two parts. One, stop trying to control everything, just flow. And number two, you have to have a balance. The sole fixation on happiness is going to make you terrible. Like you're going to hate everything because like what we talked about with living in the moment, right? So like focus on
Mhm.
the moment right now, not tomorrow, not oh, I'm going to be done with this certificate in 6 months, so then I'll be happy. You have to take that and be it in the
The
moment.
present moment. Yeah, the
Yeah.
present moment.
So like
Which is what
but
which is what Ramdas taught. Present moment. Be here and now.
yeah, because we've talked about that plenty of times. Uh
Hmm.
we've talked about it with you know work and stuff. So uh um
Be
but
here now, dude. I'm telling you.
like there's a I think there's like a Viking saying that says don't worry about I'm gonna mess it up. It says like don't waste your time worrying about tomorrow. Worrying about it's not going to change it, right? So be in the moment, like be present, or if you need a break, take a break. Like don't people get so focused on what we're programmed to be focused on that we lose sight of what truly matters.
Yep. Yep.
But
Yeah.
on the other token, the saying of pursuing happiness to the fullest extent, I think is sort of a there's like a fallacy in it where it's like if that's all you focus on, then you're not happy because you're pursuing happiness, but you're not happy while you're pursuing it. You think that by pursuing whatever, then you'll be happy. And then you but then what happens is when you get that thing, whatever it is,
Dude,
then
it
you'll
eludes you. It eludes you. It
yeah,
fucking like runs away from you.
yeah. And then you got to chase the next thing to be happy. You're like, "Oh, I
The next
accomplished this."
thing. It's like so I tell people that it is the fucking disease of more.
Mhm.
So people are like, what do you mean? I'm like, the disease of more, right? I was like, so you fucking like you write this book, the book becomes a fucking New York Times bestseller. Cool. And you're like, okay, cool, got that. What's next?
Yeah,
It's a disease of more.
instead of enjoying the journey that you were on and actually
No,
reflect
yeah,
back, no one pauses to reflect back on what they could have learned from it. They just keep pursuing the next thing.
the next thing.
And
That's
that's
it.
our
And
monkey
that's
mind.
and that's our monkey mind that's always saying, what the fuck else can you do?
It's
Right?
just
And
about
I tell
survival.
people like, yes. I tell people that's not why we're fucking here, man. That's not why we're here. I'm like,
Calibra.
I'm like, gosh damn, that's not why we're fucking here, dude. Like, we're not here for that shit. I'm like, and get over it. And they're just like, oh well, God, blah blah blah. And I'm like, no,
I saw something that what we're talking about right now makes me think. Because I was raised like if you have people who love you, you're rich. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
that
which is
kind of plays
great. It's great.
that that kind of plays into the thing of like gratitude, the concept of being grateful. And what I saw the other day was it said there's nothing wrong with celebrating a simple life.
Nope. Not at
But that's
all.
what people don't understand. Oh, that's it. Do push-ups. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, people don't. A lot of people don't understand, and it's not really their fault. It's just that we're all programmed to a certain extent, and we
Hmm.
don't realize that we are unless
Hmm.
we. There's little things that the universe or God will show you, like, hey, I'm nudging you in this. Like, God will nudge you in a direction. Doesn't mean you're gonna go that way if you don't fucking listen. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Just like uh like when I was talking about getting out of the military. It's like it wasn't my choice, but that season had passed, you know?
Yeah. Of course.
So and just like you with the paramedic stuff, that season
Yeah.
passed for and now the next
That
step,
season was done, dude.
yeah. So I don't know. People I think
But we could have easily not listened, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Easily not listened.
And
How many people?
that's
How many
that
people are still in places that they shouldn't be? Majority. Majority, dude.
yeah. And then you end up being 50 years old, you're like, oh, I've worked at this place for 20 years, but I never pursued my dream of this XYZ. And then you're like,
Hmm.
I wasted
Hmm.
20 years of my life working for somebody else when I could be running my own business, you know, or doing what I
Yep.
want to do.
Yep. Absolutely. That's what I'm
Alexander the
saying. It's
Great,
like I said.
Alexander the Great once said, "There's nothing impossible to he who will try."
Yeah.
You
There
know,
you go.
so
I'm telling you, dude. I've seen you fucking since I've known you, and you have a beautiful fucking spirit behind you. And I know. And then, like I said, like us, it's funny. All the years that I've said that I want to start a podcast, and fucking all of a
yep.
sudden, like I meet you, and I'm like, God damn, I'm like, I met other people that I thought I was supposed to, and I was trying, and blah blah. And then you, and I'm like, oh no,
So,
yeah,
what's fun is that I've always thought about being interviewed by people of other podcasts that I watch. And it's funny that we met and then this has become a thing. It's weird.
yeah, yeah.
Like that's what I'm saying. That's what I was telling you earlier. Like when we met and you interviewed me and stuff like that. Like there's no coincidences.
No, there's
You know?
none. I mean, that's what I'm saying. There's none, and that's what I'm telling. That's what I'm trying to tell you is like, it's funny because like I told you, I heard, Wayne Dyer, who obviously died in 2015, and he who was a massive spiritual teacher. But it's funny how I meet or not meet, but hear now and accept Robert Grant,
Yeah.
who is 10 years older than me, 12 years older than me. Um, and they always say when the student's ready, the teacher will pay. And I'm hearing this guy talk, and I'm like, God damn, this shit makes sense. Like, what the fuck, you know? And I see his shit, and I'm dealing with all this shit, and then like you and I fucking, and I'm hearing these things like with you and I talking, and I'm like, see, in my head, I'm like, this shit makes sense. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, oh my god, like this is fucking like sincere, like synchronicity,
Yeah. So I was about to say it's all synchronizing.
It's it's synchronicity, dude, and I'm like, holy shit, like,
Which is what we were talking about earlier
yeah,
with the fucking Matrix.
dude. I'm telling you,
Yeah.
like synchronicity fits into all of it, right? Like we
Yeah.
fucking have these moments where we're like, oh yeah, oh shit, oh that, oh well, wait a minute, and it's all there, dude, and it's like, holy shit,
Yeah.
it's really amazing. I mean, it really is, and it's like and then but then you also, like you just said, like, is that a fucking game? Like,
Yeah.
god damn, I gotta pee. I'm gonna pee. But is that a game? Like, is it a fucking game?
Yeah, probably. There's just some aliens sitting on a couch, popping in Earth, the video game.
Dude, what if there is like this? I mean, obviously I believe there are or there is this ultimate creator. But I mean, like, what if we're just like fucking being like moved? You know? I mean, what the hell? I don't know. What are
Yeah,
your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on that? Like, what if we are? What if we were? What if that's the truth?
like we're in a game.
Yeah, like we're in a fucking game. Like, I mean, what would your
Well, here's
what
okay.
would your
Well, you
thoughts
just
be?
all right, fine, fine, all right.
Because
So
that just takes me to a whole nother level. I'm like, dude, I'm like, wait a minute. Like,
so
what if that's the truth?
so I'm a pretty big gamer. So like,
See, and I'm not, but I'm saying that, like, that's what I say. Like, you understand
but
it more than I
but
do.
here's the
So,
thing. Here's the concept that you just made me think of. So every year, graphics get better and better and better and better, and now we got virtual
mhm.
reality, and now we got graphics that look real, right?
My sons are a great game, or one of my sons, great. The one I adopted is a great gamer. Yeah, so I see that. Yeah.
So who's to say that it's just an endless cycle? What if like the creator is like a dude who created a computer and we're all just like fucking created digitally, right? Like we're in a game, we're in a video game world, and that's why, you know, fucking things are the way they are. But now we're creating our own. So what if that's how, dude, this is crazy. All right. So what if that's how life is created, is that it's a perpetual cycle. So like a video game character, you turn it on, you turn the game system on or the PC or whatever, and then that person comes to life, and then you create your character and you're doing all this shit. And what if that? Because that's the thing with artificial intelligence. People are like, now artificial intelligence is going to start becoming self-aware. What if?
Mhm.
So it's like a so basically, all of that stuff is almost kind of the same as a consciousness. So what if that's where we're derived from? Which is what people say God is a consciousness, and we're all this like divine. We all have, like you said, we all have that divine in us. So what if it's just like the creator is like, yeah, I'm gonna make this game on this place called Earth, and fucking, I'm kind of going everywhere with this, but
What?
I don't,
No, 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 it's fine. What are your thoughts of I guess AI in fucking like just being fucking like
I think it's
they,
the most,
they just
I think it's the most dangerous thing we could fucking use, to be honest with you.
really, really? Why?
Yeah, because
Why?
well, that plays into the whole thing concept of what I just said, right? So I don't know if you've ever seen that show. It's called oh man, it was on HBO. Basically, I don't remember what it's called right now, but it was the concept that humans on one planet were jacked up and the world's about to end, right? So they send these androids that look like they're human, but they're not, to another planet, and they have these fucking babies that are grown in like this container. And it's basically the story of Adam and Eve almost, but they're androids and they're raised
Uh, mm, mm.
to
See, they
repopulate.
always go back to that though. They always go back to that though.
So like going back to what you just said with artificial intelligence is that the issue is, and that's what we're talking about with NPCs, right? Like we were talking about that earlier
Yes.
before we
Yeah.
got on here.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
when the problem is that when if it's called artificial intelligence, eventually it will start to learn by itself.
Mm-hmm.
And then once it
Mm-hmm.
starts to learn by itself,
Mm-hmm.
and the concern, which is from the Terminator fucking movies, is that once it realizes that it no longer needs us, then
And then
what
it's
do you think
over.
is going to happen? You know?
Oh shit.
So my concern is that, oh yeah, do chat GPT and AI and all this other stuff. But I'm not saying even within the next 10 years, which it's possible, I guess. And I'm not qualified to
Dude.
talk on a deeper
Dude,
level.
I'm just telling you, like,
Just just because we can do something doesn't mean we should. And that's from Jurassic Park.
and you're right.
Where he's,
You're
where he's
100%
talking about
right.
He's just when they're talking about the dinosaurs and hatching them in the eggs, and he's like, just all of you were so like amazed that we could do something. No one ever stopped to ask if we should.
So, hey, I'm gonna tell you this. When I was, God knows how old, fucking young man, and that movie came out and they did that shit, like where they hatched a fucking dinosaur.
Yeah.
I remember my mom tells me, you were a kid. She goes, and you said, why would we even try to do that? And I
See, but
was like,
that's the problem.
no fucking shit.
That's the problem, right? Is that like we're talking about how we're put here
I asked the question, bro. I asked the question. Like, no.
we're put here for a reason. But the problem with mankind is that we always try to play God.
Yes.
And
Yes.
we have no right in doing that.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's a whole nother topic I could go down. But uh like, is God created in our image, or are we created in God's image?
No shit.
You know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. Like, we're like going back to the church. That's all man-made shit. All of it. God didn't fucking make a temple for you in fucking Istanbul, you know?
No shit. Yes.
We made it.
Yes.
So I don't know. It's yeah. Uh,
So what are we here to fucking do ultimately? Like to fucking be like an advocate, right? I mean, like, dude,
well,
you and I are here.
that's why we're doing
You and
this
I
is
are
that,
to be advocates. That's what I'm saying. We're here to be advocates. I mean, serious. Like,
and we might not be right about everything. We could be wrong about everything we're saying, but we don't know.
no, dude, it doesn't matter. Like,
As
we're
long
not
as
meant to be. We're not. We're you and I are not claiming to be the fucking ultimate fucking. Hey,
expert.
this is what we do. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
But my thing is like, why we're called warriors of light is because one, we both have similar or parallel warrior type backgrounds, but also we are also spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
But that's another concept that we need to make an episode about, because I used to believe, and I still kind of believe, that the ultimate life, kind of like a jack of all trades. You ever heard of the jack of all trades concept?
Of
Of
course.
course,
Yeah. Of course.
right?
Of course. Yeah.
So when I was young, and I still kind of believe it today, is that warriors specifically are the most human out of everybody else. Because what I mean by that is, like, if you look at the samurai or like the Spartans or whatever, right? You have to
But
be
we can
comfortable.
also do. We can also do so many things.
Yes, you have to be
Is that what I'm?
comfortable.
Is that what I'm feeling from you?
Yeah, like, you ever heard of the phrase "be a warrior in the garden"?
Yeah. Because what
It's,
I'm saying
yeah,
is like you could be the greatest knife fighter in the world, but that doesn't matter because what if you can just like embody so many things,
yeah.
right?
Well, that's what
Right.
you know when you
I
get
mean,
into like
that's
Miyamoto
my thought.
Musashi and
Yeah.
stuff. The way is in everything.
The Wee Way is, yeah, no, I mean, it's like I told you, it's like the Tao, right? The Tao is, I mean, people look at the Tao and they think that that makes you weak. It doesn't make you weak, dude. It makes you understand that fucking you have complete control. And as I have gone through my life, when I used to be triggered by everybody, like I said, now
Yeah.
people look at me and they're like, dude, like someone come to you and be like, hey, you're a fucking asshole. And I'm like, hey, high five. And people are like, what the seriously, and people are like, what the fuck? Like, you don't get mad. I'm like, no,
That's
like,
ultimately
because
what we're here for, is to help others heal.
that's come to that place, man. Come to that
Like,
place, man.
that's why, all this war shit, like, dude, I grew up with the war. I was in it for a little bit, not as much as other people, but I'm at a point in my life where there's a reason why that all ended, and I'm like, I'm over it, dude.
Yeah,
Like,
no
I'm
shit.
tired. Like, the television, all this shit, war, war, war. It's like, no. Stop. Fuck you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No shit. Yeah. No shit.
Like, that's not us
And then
making
and then and then you and then you. This is not meant to be racist by any way, but
damn son. Yeah.
yeah, I'm just kidding. Because of who you are, though, like that's beautiful. You know, it's beautiful, and you see it and you understand it. Because a lot
Dang,
of people,
because I
like,
got the Taliban
dude,
blood.
well, because who knows? So you're fucking probably trying to blow up planes. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Hello,
I love
dude.
you. I love you. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just saying is that people fucking think that fucking because of your background or whatever, it doesn't fucking matter, dude. Like you were literally put in my fucking path
Yeah.
as a best friend. Like I
Yeah.
love your ass like to death, like fucking like sincere. Like you're one of my best friends. Like I love you. And I was like, dude, I was like, I'll talk to you all day, every day. Like sincerely. Because I know that your heart is a whole
Every
different
phone
place.
conversation we have is over an hour.
Yeah, no shit. That's what I'm saying. It's because
But
you just have a whole different fucking place, and I do too. And it's like, our souls connect. But a lot of people don't see that because they think it's like, oh my God, that's a person. And I'm like, dude, let that shit go. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't fucking matter, you know?
yeah, I mean that's another. I mean, but with this too, like you know how I was talking about how people are just fixated on the pursuit of being happy and that's all that matters, and
Yeah,
but they're
of
doing it
course.
wrong.
Yeah.
It also
Yeah, the
has
pursuit of happiness.
it also has to do with balance though. You need both. You can't have one without the other, you know?
Hmm.
And people like
Hmm.
we talked about growing, being uncomfortable, you're gonna have both, but it's to balance each other out.
Of course.
You're never gonna grow unless you have both. Happiness, sadness,
Of course.
anger, and stuff like that. And if you don't learn to go through those things, love and hate, you know. But the problem is that, like you were talking about, basically school shooters, right? Earlier, and
Yeah.
then Andrew Tate actually said, and I agree with him to a certain extent on this, is that what happens when you tell young men to act solely off their emotion? That's how you end up with school shooters because as men we are like men and women, we have multiple qualities, but overall we're pretty much the same, right?
Yeah.
However,
Yeah.
however, and this could also go back to the monkey mind, we're programmed to fucking do shit as
Yep.
men. Like,
Yep. Be
so,
fucking this goofy ass monkey.
but what I was trying to say about the school shooting thing is that if we just tell young men, like, hey, dude, like, don't, like, it's important as a man, if we just acted on our emotions all the time, the world would be on fire. It's like, you know what? I fucking hate Walmart. I'm gonna light that bitch on fire because that's where our monkey mind comes in. You know what I mean? Like we're built to
Yeah.
conquer
Yeah.
things,
Yeah. I get that.
but
Yeah.
to have a healthy outlet is, you know, but people don't talk about that. They're like, it's okay. Like I believe it's okay for a man to cry, and it took me years to, you know, from my programming and with the help of my wife to be like, no, it's okay for you to cry.
Mhm.
Like, but there's a time and a place for it, you know. But like you need a balance of light and dark. But if you don't acknowledge that within yourself, then you're going to end up hating the world because you hate yourself.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you're going to project that upon
Yep.
the world.
Yep.
And that's how you end up
Everybody
with people.
else. Yep. Yep. Yep.
But there's a lot of young people who don't have anyone to tell them that. You know what I mean? And they're
Yeah.
like,
Absolutely.
when you're young, you don't understand that. You just think the world is the way you've been told it is. So then you act accordingly to what you believe is right, even though it's not. So
What's been handed to you? Yeah. Your old belief system.
yeah. But then, I
Yeah.
mean, you know, that also
Absolutely.
the positive and negatives. But yeah,
No, it's beautiful. I love
went
it.
off
I
into
love
there.
it, dude. Like. I hope you record that and put that out there because that's fucking beautiful, and I
Oh yeah,
love that. And
we're recording.
that's
Yeah, we're still recording.
yeah, that's wonderful because that's absolutely what I agree with, and I've tried to show for so many years. Um, but I also know that I have done shit because I'm just like, oh, I don't want people to dislike me, and it's like it's bullshit. It's like,
Yeah, when you
but I
constantly
love,
seek approval from others, then you're not living life the way
dude.
it's.
Yeah, no, not at all, man.
You know?
And and that's what I'm saying is like, since you and I have met each other, well, prior to us meeting each other, but like, so many things where I'm just like, yeah, I don't give a fuck what people think about me anymore. I just don't care. And I remember I have a client who was 70 years old and she was from Louisiana and she used to tell me, she goes, I love the fact that you're 40. She goes, and you don't give a fuck what people think about you. And I said, I don't, Carmen. Why? And she goes, I'm just telling you. She goes, it took me 71 years to fucking be at this place. And I'm like, oh, okay. I was like, what? I don't give a fuck. Because I don't. I just don't give a fuck. I'm like, I love everybody. I love people, but I'm like, I don't need you to fucking be my end all be all, And
Yeah.
I just don't give a fuck. I'm just like, I don't, dude. Like, I really don't. And I'm like, you know, um, it took me 40 years, whatever less, probably a little less, a couple of years less. But she was like, dude, she's like, I love it. She's like, you just don't give a fuck. I was like, I don't. I was like, I really don't. And I was like, I am happy with who I am. Like, I'm not perfect and I don't care, but I'm still beautiful and I'm still loving and I'm still an amazing man.
Yeah.
And that's it. So, yeah. And I see that with you. I love that with you. I love that with you.
I'm gonna cry. I'm just kidding.
No, seriously. Like, you can cry.
Uh,
Like, yeah.
uh, um, no, I agree with you. That that's the tragedy. Like that's in my opinion, the tragedy of life is that there's people like that, like you just said, who go 60, 70 years and they're a certain way because they think it's the right way to do shit. Like Bill Burr talks about it with Christianity with the dude from Duck Dynasty, Phil
Hmm.
Robertson,
Hmm.
and he was saying how the joke is like he doesn't agree with gay marriage, right? And then Bill Burr's like, are you really surprised that he said that? The guy who went to Bible study every Sunday and fucking went, and now he turns around and they're like, are you a good boy because you believe in God and that this is a certain way and blah blah blah. And then at the end, when they ask him the end of the joke, Bill Burr's like talking about Phil Robertson, and he's in a canoe, fucking just in his pond, and then some reporter comes out to ask him, "Do you believe in gay marriage?" And he says no, and then everyone's like, "What the fuck?" And then the dude, the old guy who's been programmed his whole life to believe a certain thing, right? He turns around, he's like, "Am I a good boy still?" And then he's like, "Everybody he fucking knew is dead." You know? That's the joke. So it's like,
Yeah, yeah.
but people
Yeah.
people go through that, and then they're like, "What?" But then on the other side, like Bill Burr said, is that like, are you surprised that he said that? Like, like the current generation or the one before this one, are you not fucking smart enough to understand what you're talking about? That's what people don't do. They don't actually
Mm.
understand what they're
Hmm.
talking about. They just have an agenda
Hmm.
and they're like, "Oh, we got to push this narrative so we can get views," you know, instead of just
Well, because they'll get their
the
fucking
ratings.
yeah, that's it, man.
So it's like if everyone was just genuine and fucking like just cared about each other a little more, then the world would be a better place, and stop
What
forcing,
about our shit though?
huh?
I said, what about our shit though? We just fucking be just natural and just do our shit, man.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I mean. Yeah. Like we live in a world where everything is just like cut and dry, and that's not how the world works. The
No.
world is the world is not black and white. It's fucking gray area. The
It's
whole time.
always fucking gray. There's always gray. See? Thank you. That's what I've said for years, man.
Yeah.
God, you drive me nuts because that's what I've said for fucking years. Like fucking the girls I've been with, some of these women I've been with, and I'd be like, dude, I'm like, it's there's a fucking there's a fucking like black and white, and they're like, no, there's not, and I'm like, all right, like you guys are fucking idiots. Like, God, I love you, but
Dude, so just
yeah,
like
dude,
we were talking about the election earlier, I lost family members over that, like not like close ones, but like cousins and shit who like, I'm unfriending you because you're asking me questions. Like people don't want to be challenged either, because like we talked about earlier, there's comfort.
no
No
shit,
one no one wants their views challenged, you know?
yeah, no
So
shit. That's what I'm saying. It's like fucking. That's how it's
but that's the
been for
whole
me.
point of
It's
what we're
like
supposed
fucking
to do. That's how we find the truth is by challenging things.
no shit.
So
You
drives me
don't just
nuts.
follow shit. I know. Me too. Me too.
But yeah. Well, you want to cut it?
Well, let's see. Yeah, let's see. Let's see what happens. Do you want to? We can look at it, and we can, of course,
We might have to edit it.
like we can edit it, and see what happens, and then go from there, and then just send it out, and then see what happens. We have a
Yeah.
lot of good talks, so
I do need to. I do need to make our social media pages and the YouTube page. I guess we should do that before we release it. Probably. You think?
yeah, yeah. But that's we have a lot of good talks, though. A
Yeah,
lot of good talk.
yeah. This is basically an introduction to what our podcast will be about overall.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
kind of
And we
touched on
can
a
send
bunch of
it
different.
out. And I think we should send it out. I think we should come up with the end deal and then send it out and just see what happens because pretty sure it's gonna fucking get out there like real quick.
Yeah, I just think that once we start rolling, I think maybe we should. Well, there needs to be a natural flow, but I don't know. We can jump around to certain topics, but we'll see. We'll have to see how it works if people want one episode to be about a certain dynamic or a certain topic rather than
Yeah, yeah.
constantly jumping. I mean, we kind of stay on track because it's about mostly spiritual and why we're here.
Well, and
Which
it just
we
grew
talked
off of certain topics. And that's my thing is like I said, is like, what I realized is again, totally different aspects, but it's like Tom and Bert, like they're fucking going on one thing after another, and then boom, then they're there. So and we were there too. We were like fucking
Well, we also talked about I mean, we could legitimately record like 4 hours and then split it up into like three different episodes.
dude, like literally.
Yeah,
Our shit was like multiple fucking like ideas, which is wonderful.
yeah,
That's what I told you.
yeah. I
We
know.
could be
That's
like,
fine.
hey, 30 minutes, 30 minutes, 30 minutes, and just fucking put them out there and start putting them out there.
Yeah, sounds good, man. We gotta. Oh, we also gotta
Yes,
make like
sir.
we gotta work on like an intro video thing. Like I know you said the logo thing. We gotta do that and all that other stuff. But
Yeah.
we can talk
Just
about
be like,
that.
hey,
We can work that out. Because we can release this in like a week and try to have everything set up to be released in 7 days from today or something like that, or
well,
whenever.
let's try to get it. Let's try to get it released as soon as possible. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds good, buddy.
all right, buddy. All right, buddy. Love you.
Love you.
All right, talk to you soon.
Later, dog.
All right, bye, 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 bye.